Hi, my name is Tracy Steward. I am a partner at CMTA, an engineering firm looking holistically to make overall high-performing buildings. And we are very collaborative, we're innovative, and we have a passion for what we do.
Several years ago, Tony Hands and I were talking at the office, and we were talking about what is the future of design in the built environment and what is that focus going to be. And we dove into health and wellness and how the purpose of the place is the people. And when we design, we need to maintain our focus on that and that purpose. And health and wellness is just ingrained in that mission. I love this as a design philosophy. And when this virus came about, it just made me even more passionate about providing designs that still help people come back together. The spaces we need to design now need to be capable of accommodating both these real risks that we have of illness, but also these fears that have been embraced. As we start to think of how we want to reduce transmission for the occupant's health, the first thing my mind goes to is my background, which is mechanical engineering and designing buildings for HVAC. And so I start to think about UV lights for heating and air conditioning systems. It's a low-cost way to prevent circulation. It's used in the healthcare market regularly, and it kills bacteria and viruses, and it's very common in the industry. So my first thought is if you're going to have air brought into a space and through the diffusers, use a UV light to clean it. The next thing that comes to mind when I step back and think about being the administrator for some well projects is the high touch surfaces, and how can we go about not necessarily always the cleaning portion of it, but how do we eliminate them? And so how do we look at our designs and say, okay, let's go ahead and have sinks and toilets auto flush. Let's have automatic doors wherever we can place them. Let's have door holders, for when people are entering spaces, so less people are opening and closing the doors. Let's use the design in the environment, maybe on pathways to restrooms, to even eliminate those doors. Another thing to get rid of is the hand dryers, blowing that air throughout a space and using paper towels. So the third thing I think about, I go back to my world as a HVAC designer, and increased ventilation, especially in like classrooms and in conference rooms and any place that would have a high density of people. And I've always been an advocate for that since I got into understanding health and wellness and the CO2 levels and how those impact cognitive function and student performance. And so we're going through all this effort right now to bring in more ventilation and to provide that fresher air so that we can have better performance, but we're putting masks on now. And so how can we find a way to get the masks off so we can get that fresh air so we can perform? I don't like to take the focus off lighting design and day lighting, because if we start to look at health as a whole, if you're healthier, you're sleeping well, you're stronger, and you have a better immune system. And so, I think we still need to focus on that day lighting and getting that to people, as well as the lighting design. And then finally, I think we need to look at where we use equipment that may recirculate air without going through a UV light or good filtration, and try to find ways to eliminate those within the design and move the return air maybe away from the doors where we traditionally put them, so that we can pull the air maybe to the back of the space, more similar to a laboratory, than to keep that air fresher. And so if I start to think about the 5 things to reduce that transmission and make more people more comfortable as they go back into their environments, I would say those would be the top 5 I would be looking at. I think the biggest change is going to be the cleaning protocols and the level to which those are used within buildings and their operations. I think that I'm going to have to probably get on some probiotics to get some of my bacteria in me nowadays, because we're going to be cleaning so well. But a big part of it is about killing the viruses as well. So those cleaning protocols are definitely going to have an impact in operations. I think we're going to see spacing between individuals grow, whether that's in the education market. I mean, if you start to think of a classroom, a lecture hall, it's very tight quarters. And, those environments may need to be reevaluated based on this experience that we're having right now. So I feel like this pandemic has really given us an appreciation for the gift of social interaction. And I work in the education market and with higher education and K-12. And one of our biggest conversations is always about community. How do we create community? How do we create moments for people to interact so that they can find friendships and they can create connections and have a sense of belonging? And that's always a conversation because it's a big part of our mental health and our happiness. And so as I start to think about what the silver lining is that, you know, as we move forward, there will probably be less illness because now we are really putting a bigger focus and a heightened awareness towards not getting sick. And so we're going to be making different choices and probably, you know, distancing ourselves more than we had in the past. And the silver lining, I think, is that people will get less sick as we move forward. But we need to find ways to make that happen where you still can make those connections and create that joy in our life that we need as human beings through social interaction.
Thank you so much for having me.